Welcome back. On Monday, the 20th of January, Donald Trump will officially return to the White House. Trump will begin his second term as U.S. president following his inauguration ceremony. As he returns to office, he has already taken credit for the recently announced ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel, set to be officially implemented from tomorrow. So just how much credit does Trump deserve for the deal? To help us preview a new Trump term, I'm joined now by Professor John Stremlau from Wits University. A very good evening to you, Professor Stremlau. And before we get to who gets the credit, you know, it's only a few days away from that second inauguration, which will take place on Monday. Hours away from phase one of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire and hostage exchange. Quite a pivotal moment right now. But let's start with the exchange of the hostages and Palestinian prisoners. Is this the beginning of what the world has been waiting for, an end to the killings?
Well, it may well be, and I would hope that it would be, because the Palestinians have suffered enormous losses for a country that's only 2 million people, and it's lost 707 lives, or at least according to the estimates of the UN, and it's been a terrible drain on children and civilians. And I think the South Africans were right to raise the issue of plausible genocide, because proportionality has not played in any way on this. Now, is this going to ceasefire going to hold? Well, it's only for the first phase, and that's 6 weeks. And let's hope that it does lead to a second and third phase, but that's going to have to stabilize a two-state solution, and that will be on Donald Trump's watch. And his ambassador designate, the former governor of Arkansas, Saunders, is an ethnic cleanser. I mean, he wants to see Israel extend control over the Palestinian areas. But on the other hand, Steve Witkoff, who was handling the Trump pressures along with the Biden administration, and that brought about this ceasefire, it suggests that the Trump can play a positive role in sustaining this ceasefire, and he says he wants to, but I don't know.
Time will tell. And, you know, as you're mentioning about the ceasefire, 6 weeks, 33 Israeli hostages to be exchanged for 735 Palestinian prisoners as well. Phase one will see only 3 Israeli hostages in exchange for 90 of those Palestinians as well. And hopefully then the numbers will increase and it will be completed by the end of possibly the third phase. But tell us a little bit more about the 6-week ceasefire agreement, because we've seen before where Israel has said, okay, fine, there'll be a bit of a reprieve, we will cease fire for a moment, but then they will still continue.
Well, this could be the result, although you know, we'll know tomorrow as the Israelis have continued to bomb Gaza, and maybe we will conclude tomorrow night that the ceasefire is real, and that the hostages will start the process of being exchanged for the Palestinian prisoners. But let's not lose sight of the fact that the chaos and the havoc wreaked on the Palestinian people has been enormous. And there are only 2.1 million of them, and they've lost, as I said, 46.7 thousand lives, but also have suffered amputees and hospitalizations and disruption, and all homes have been disrupted and destroyed, and it's just a mess. And the stages 2 and 3 are really going to be the tests of the Netanyahu government and the Trump government. But the Biden administration has worked tirelessly to try to get a peace agreement, and yet it all came together when supposedly Witkoff conveyed the fact that all hell would break loose on the Hamas residual forces. But then, of course, who's going to govern it, and how are you going to get a reconstruction plan? These are all questions that will have to be ironed out in the course of the next 6 weeks.
And I guess also in the course of the next 6 weeks, what will remain to be seen as well is from those Israeli hostages, how many of those are alive? And would that then, for perhaps, Professor, also determine Israel's response? Say there are more hostages that they are given back to them, but they aren't alive. Would that mean more destruction for Gaza and the people of Palestine in retaliation for those hostages not being brought back alive?
We don't know, but the 8 members of the cabinet of the 33 that prolonged the 7-hour negotiation that finally got an agreement by Israel, last night, just is a sign of how divided and polarized Israeli politics are. Netanyahu wants to survive in office as his buddy Donald Trump comes to power in the U.S. So I think bets are off, but it's going to be a world that is fed up with the killing of the disproportionate killing of the Gazans, and wants a 2-state solution. So and South Africa's voice will resonate on this again, and I think it should be voiced as we have done in the past.
And it's undeniable the credit and the role that South Africa has when it comes to this as well. But also, we're, in my intro, I was talking about Trump taking, some credit over this, if not all the credit over this. Professor Stremlau, ultimately, who's responsible for the progress that we are seeing? Is it the outgoing Biden administration, or is it the incoming Trump administration, or a bit of a combination of both?
Well, I think the historians will have to mull over the record, but you're right, for sure, Musa, that Trump is claiming exaggerated credit, as he always does. He lacks integrity and tries to avoid accountability. In many ways, he's reminiscent of Jacob Zuma, but he does mince words about the role that Witkoff played for him in this process. And Biden is recalling the long period of this is a solution that could have been had back in May, and it wasn't. And so maybe the Trump administration is holding people's feet to the fire. I don't know, but we certainly hope that they will, and the international community will rally around a ceasefire and its extension for the 2 states, the 2-state solution, and we'll see what happens.
Indeed, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for your insights, Professor Stremlau. We'll also be keeping a very close eye on Monday's proceedings. It'll be a very cold one in the United States when the U.S. President Donald Trump will be re-inaugurated for the 2nd time as the 47th President of the United States of America.